Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the apprentice of the Sith Lord. Sidious killed Darth Plagueis. That is all we know. But what if the Sith Lord did not go quietly like Sidious thought? What if his spirit lived? What if he found a new apprentice in the form of one Uzumaki Naruto? What if he found the perfect apprentice? Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard! Chapter 8 Sound Sith. Tenten was strong. Always had been since she was a young girl, and constantly showing a female wasn't helpless like so many guys thought the gender was in terms of the natural order of things. She trained with weapons when most girls played with dolls. When girls her age dreamed of flowers, ponies, and other girly things, Tenten had practiced with all the weapons her tiny hands could get their hands on. The girl had wanted to be a shinobi ever since she heard the stories about Senju Tsunade decimating her enemies, and Tenten had built herself up to be strong like one of the guys to do it. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, Tenten was not being strong, and currently crying out in pain from the assault on her body by her master. Why? Because she had not fallen completely in line like the others. That if given a true honest to Kami chance of escaping the will of her master, Tenten would take it, and sell him down the river to his enemies. It was deep within her mind, as she had done everything to keep it hidden from Darth Sage, and his power to read her mind. I'm disappointed in you, Tenten. How many times must I continue to hurt you or order one of your fellow tools to do it in my place? How much longer must I wait until you finally decide to submit to my will? Said Darth Sage, seeing the girl struggling to get up from his attack of Sith lightning he hit her with. I have my principles. My integrity. The others may not be strong enough to fight your dark will, but I am that strong, and won't break under any circumstances, said Tenten, as she saw Haku come up behind their master, and stayed silent until the Sith turned his head slightly face to look at the ice user. You really think I won't throw you away, Tenten? I can, and I will if there isn't a change in your attitude. I can easily wipe your mind and make you into a whore at a brothel upon selling you to one. I can crush your entirely body beyond repair, throw you into a hospital my company owns, and bury your identity under so much paperwork that not even Jiraiya of the Sanin's infamous spy network could find your location. I am making you become more powerful than you ever could be in the Leaf. Make your potential shine to the point where Senju Tsunade herself would acknowledge you, and be impressed by your skills in the shinobi arts. To think, you would throw it all I have given you away on those very same principles, and integrity to not submit to me. Yes, Haku? Said Darth Sage, turning his head to see his first tool bow her head at him submissively. Sage-sama, the others are ready to move out on your orders, said Haku, as she knew the girl in front of them on the ground wasn't to be trusted to know things, and thus kept the location of their master's destination from her. Thank you, Haku. It seems Tenten has yet to understand her role in being a tool for me to use how I see fit. Reminder, said Darth Sage before turning to leave, and walked out of the room while Haku cracked her hands in preparation in carrying out his will. Rice Country. Karen, Lee, and Yujido followed Darth Sage through the thick forest area, with the Sith walking with a powerful stride that told them he was heading to Sound with a purpose. That all who stood in his path would be destroyed, and no one was going to stand in his way of getting whatever he desired. They traveled via carriage to the border between Fire and Rice Country before taking the rest of the way on foot without so much as a pause on where to go. How much farther, Sage-sama? Said Karen, as she followed right behind the Sith, and the boy stopped when reaching a hill area that looked down at a small town. We've arrived, said Darth Sage, with the three behind him looking where he was at the sight of the town below. This doesn't look like a shinobi village. It's too small, said Lee before hearing the cruel chuckle of his master. Your eyes are being deceived, my friend. The true Sound Village is buried underneath it, said Darth Sage while looking at Karen using her sensory powers on the area. I sense them. So many shinobi below with different chakra signatures ranging from Genin to Jounin, with two of them being the strongest in a separate area, said Karen, as she saw one was flickering, and the body of that individual seemed to be unhealthy. That's where our target is. First, we find our way below, and then take what is mine, said Darth Sage while heading down the hill into the town. And everyone else? Said Yujito, though she had an idea of what he was going to say next. Wipe them out. All of them. Said Darth Sage, as he didn't want weak things under his command, and only wanted the best to serve under his rule. If only he were a few years older. You would have one hell of a mate there, kitten, said Nibby with Yujito sputtering internally at that. Are you crazy, Nibby? How can you even consider the two of us being like that? Thought Yujito with the Nibby just laughing slightly. What? Are you saying that the idea isn't appealing? He's strong, handsome, and in a few years will no doubt wish to seek the pleasures of the female flesh. Something you have like all the others girls here, and yet if you play your cards right could be alpha female of the whole pack. Said Nibby while Yujito shook her head no. You make it sound like sleeping with Sage-sama provides a sense of security, thought Yujito, knowing that wouldn't be the case with the Sith. It can. All you have to do is play your cards right. Besides, even if it's just for a short time of rutting in the sack, I doubt the union would be unpleasant for either party, and at least you can say it was with someone strong, said Nibby, knowing countless weaker humans had wanted to bed Yujito for bragging rights and all of them had their things burned almost beyond repair. I'm not hearing this. I don't want to hear this, thought Yujito, not trying to picture the two of them going at it like animals in heat. Stop being so prude. At least think about it, kitten. You do have a few years at most before such a thing is possible. At least I think you have a few years, said Nibby while Yujito raised an eyebrow at the cat demon. And what does that mean? Thought Yujito with the Nibby looking a bit guilty. I may have done something to your body, said Nibby with Yujito now looking at the demon cat with fear and anger. What? What? What did you do, Nibby? Thought Yujito with the Nibby looking away again. It wasn't intentional, kitten. It's just, well, I'm going to go into my heat cycle soon and the thing since I'm sealed in you, said Nibby with Yujito's eyes widening and blushing at the same time. No. Wait. So, you're telling me I'm going to be going through your heat cycle and need to lay in bed with some random guy? Thought Yujito, seeing Nibby grin at her. Well, it's not random if you choose Darth Sage before the heat cycle kicks in, said Nibby with Yujito looking furious at the demon cat. You're making it sound like I'm going to jump him whether he's the only guy around at the time, thought Yujito with Nibby nodding. That's because the heat cycle only has you seek out only the strongest of males to mate with, and who could be stronger than the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? Said Nibby while Yujito was getting angrier by the second. How long do I have? Thought Yujito, seeing the Nibby think for a second. A few years, just like I said. Though you will need to explain this to your stud of a future mate before it happens, said Nibby while Yujito blushed further. He's not my future mate. Thought Yujito while Nibby just laughed at her red-faced expression. Not yet, kitten. The heat cycle hasn't kicked in yet, said Nibby while Yujito was now mentally cursing the demon cat out. Yujito. Focus on the here and now, said Darth Sage while picking up the woman's cursing at the Nibby for whatever reason and needed the former Kumo Kunoichi to do her job. Yes, Sage-sama, said Yujito, as she had followed him into the secret entrance leading underground, helping to kill sound shinobi around them in a quiet and stealthy manner. Elsewhere underground. Yakushi Kabuto was working on his current patient Kagaya Kimimaro when he felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end and old instincts honed from years of training told him something was wrong. Very wrong after the failed invasion attempt of the Leaf by Orochimaru, things had not been going well for the medic Nin, as the Sound Four were either dead by execution, or enslaved to Suna as the Kazekage's servants. Well, more like servant since only one of the four became one to the Kazekage's children. And by the man's children Kabuto heard Sabaku no Gara was given the red-haired foul-mouthed Tayuya. Something is wrong, thought Kabuto, as he went to the security monitors hooked to the camera in the base, and found them slowly being destroyed one by one. Just when the shadows of something appeared on the security monitor, it went to static, and instantly put the man on edge. Looking over at the sedated Kimimaro, the medic knew the albino wasn't capable of fighting in his current sickly condition, and decided to simply cut his losses before they became too much. Orochimaru did it all the time, so why couldn't Kabuto do it himself? Running to the door, Kabuto stopped when he sensed the chakra signatures of the intruders, surprised that they got here quickly, and wondered just who they were. Leaping back, the heavy metal door in front of Kabuto bent, buckled under the strain of something incredibly strong, yet invisible power, and was surprised to see a cloaked boy with an outstretched hand making the door bend to his will. Walking into the room, the figure was followed by 3 others, all of them Kabuto knew from the Chunin exams, and realized this was the infamous Darth Sage responsible for pilfering the shinobi from the Leaf along with other shinobi villages during the second part of the exams. "I'm here for him," said Darth Sage, getting to the point while looking at Kimimaro on the table. "Really? I'm surprised. Considering Kimimaro's time in this world is so short right now, I was expecting you were here for me since I'm much younger and healthier than he is at the moment," said Kabuto while adjusting his glasses. "You assumed incorrectly. I care nothing for someone such as yourself," said Darth Sage, as he knew where this one's loyalties lied, and knew the man would not hesitate to betray him for greater power. An old Sith habit from what Plagueis has taught him allowed succession between master and apprentice, though the blonde didn't like that kind of habit in the slightest. "Shame. If that's your position, then I'll just have to kill you, and then study your corpse to further my medical research," said Kabuto while the Sith just smirked. "You can try. Yujido, deal with him," said Darth Sage, knowing she would be perfect for this. "Yes, Sage-sama," said Yujido, taking a few steps forward. "Sending your subordinate to handle me yourself? Perhaps you aren't as strong as you make others lead on," said Kabuto tauntingly at the Sith. "No. I'm much stronger. It's your own strength that I find to be insignificant to mine. Even unleashing Yujido here on you would be considered cruel from a certain point of view," said Darth Sage, as he walked around them and towards Kimimaro. Kabuto tried to interfere, but a wall of dark blue fire made the man take a step back and look at Yujido, hissing at him like a cat. It was then the medic realized she was the Nibi Jinchuriki from Kumo, and this was the power of the demon cat inside of her. Yujido surrounded them both in a complete circle of the dark flame, while Lee and Karen stayed back to keep any other sound shinobi from coming to the room. "You think your powers can beat me, little Nico? I was Orochimaru's right hand while in sound. I was the second strongest shinobi, only compared to the Sannin himself. What hope do you have against me?" said Kabuto with Yujido snarling at him. "You'd be surprised what this little Nico can do with this kind of powerful," said Yujido, as she charged forward, and Kabuto did the same with chakra scalpels on his hands. While those two fought, Darth Sage stood over the sedated figure before him, and saw the upper part of the albino's face covered in a cloth with seals on it. The cloth itself had wires connected to it, and the wires traveled to a monitoring system that gave feedback on the Kagai's life signs. "Who is there?" said Kimimaro weakly, as he could hear the faint sounds of fighting in the background, and sensed a presence by his side that he didn't recognize. "Your new master," said Darth Sage, with the albino tensing with what he sensed was anger. "I have only one master, and it's Orochimaru-sama," said Kimimaro with conviction in his voice despite sounding so weak from the sedation. "Your master is dead. Has been for some time now. Didn't Kabuto tell you?" said Darth Sage, as the screams coming from the man with glasses could be heard behind the Sith, and knew Yujido was tearing into his flesh. "And enjoying it." "You lie," said Kimimaro with anger laced into his tired voice. "The Kazekage did it himself after Orochimaru's invasion attempt on Konoha failed." "I am here to collect you to serve me," said Darth Sage, seeing the man shaking in front of him on the table. "I serve only one master, and you are not him," said Kimimaro while the Sith shook his head. "Your master is dead. Without someone strong like myself, you will have no purpose in life, but to slowly die, and it will be alone without anyone here to remotely support you," said Darth Sage, seeing the life signs of the albino beeping erratically in front of him. "You cannot help me.
No one can now. My physical condition is deteriorating quickly and there is no cure for my illness, said Kimimaro before he began coughing and blood came out of his mouth. Normal medical means perhaps. But you don't know of the force and the power of the dark side, said Darth Sage before putting his hand on the albino's chest. Focusing on the man's condition, the Sith used the force to locate the source of what was causing Kimimaro's illness, and discovered the albino's lungs were filled with multiple spots of cancer. Very aggressive from what Darth Sage could sense, as it was eating the Kaguya up from the inside, and most likely lived for another few months tops before it destroyed the man. Seeing how the condition was greatly advanced, even the force itself may not have the power to reverse the damage done, but the force combined with the Kyuubi zone chakra could be strong enough to fight this cancer, and purge it from the albino's pair of lungs. Turning to see Kabuto on his last leg, in a quite the literal sense with Yujito ripping off his other limbs while burning his flesh to prevent death by blood loss, and was moving in for the kill. Narrowing his eyes in thought, the Sith formed a plan in his head, as he used the force to part a small gap of the demonic fire, and pulled Kabuto towards him. Yujito and Kabuto were both surprised by this move since neither expected the Sith to interfere in their fight. For Kabuto, he thought the Sith had changed his mind, and decided to spare the medic Nin's life. However, that all changed for Kabuto when he felt his mind being invaded, and drained of all its medical knowledge down to the slightest detail. Throwing Kabuto back, Darth Sage ignored cries of pain, and pleading for mercy the medic Nin was once more calling out for while Yujito continued unleashing her wrath upon him. With the slowly dying man's information in his head, the Sith knew everything about Kimimaro's current status with the disease, the day he showed signs of it, and that Orochimaru had intended to let the poor albino die once Kabuto reported no cure could be found. If there was one thing Darth Sage didn't tolerate was the waste of incredible potential and hated those that did. In a way, he adopted the coveting ways of his master, and keeping those around him alive because they were like a rare treasure worth preserving. I feel strange, said Kimimaro, as he felt his body was being burned alive from within, and tried to move his body from the pain he felt. I'm healing you, Kimimaro. Endure it, said Darth Sage, as he used both energies in a powerful purging process, which was designed to be painful, yet effective in the end result, and heard the albino scream out in unimaginable pain while this happened. When it was over, the Sith staggered back in exhaustion at using so much of his 2 of his 3 given energies had taken a toll on him and he needed a moment to collect his thoughts. The lung cancer was indeed a powerful disease, not easily to purge like he first thought, as it had multiple clumps in the pair of breathing organs, and Darth Sage knew the man wouldn't be so lucky had he waited 2 months longer. I can breathe clearly. I don't feel the urge to cough anymore, said Kimimaro, as he slowly rose from the table, finding the sedatives in his body were also purged along with his disease, and removed the cloth on his face to see the Sith responsible for it. I want you in perfect form, Kimimaro-san. I can't do that if you're ill and sedated now, can I? Said Darth Sage, seeing Kimimaro take deep, slow breaths, and then get on his knees before bowing to the Sith. Thank you for saving me from this disease, my master. I will do everything in my power to carry out your will. I am yours to command, said Kimimaro, as he could think of no other way to pay back the Sith than to show the same fanatical loyalty Orochimaru had received, and direct it to this robed figure before him. The name of your new master is Darth Sage and he commands you to rise, said Darth Sage, seeing the albino stand quickly at attention and ready to obey any command given by the Sith. Command me, said Kimimaro with eagerness to prove his newly rediscovered strength to his new master. Follow me. We're leaving sound. With Kabuto dead and you under my command, this place will tear itself apart, said Darth Sage, knowing without leadership, a place like this could be fighting internally for several years, and cause eyes from the different villages to look in this general area for a short time. While Darth Sage himself was making other moves from the shadows. Konoha at the moment. After much time spent searching, I have finally decided on a possible Hokage for the leaf to succeed the Sandaime Hokage, and become the Godaime Hokage. One I trust not to lie to about the important matters concerning the village, along with reminding you all that I am the only reason that there is not a war going on between Konoha and the other villages after that debacle during the Chunin exams, said the fire daimyo to the councils and clan heads, seeing them all humbly nod at his words. Meaning we will have to keep our noses clean for a long while, thought everyone in the room sitting in their respective seats. Now the new Hokage of Konoha, who I trust to keep you all in line, and not cause me so much trouble, will be Sarutobi Asuma, said the fire daimyo, seeing the Hokage's chair turn around to reveal the jounin sitting in it. Another Sarutobi. How irritating, thought Danzo while keeping his anger in check. Unlike his father and predecessor, I have informed him that any major action done by this village must be brought to my full attention before anything is done, said the fire daimyo, seeing the group in the room humbly nod in obedience. I will not be like my father and make the same mistakes, daimyo-sama, said Asuma, having hated being the Hokage in his father's place, but the fire daimyo gave him little choice, and was the only way to keep the Sarutobi clan name from being smeared in a village that had experienced smearing things that didn't deserve it. I would think not. Lead as you see fit, Godame Hokage, said the fire daimyo, as he left with his samurai escort, and hoping this wasn't a mistake to have another Sarutobi in office. Make number 1 the new Hokage is. After much time spent searching, I have finally decided on a possible Hokage for the Leaf to succeed the Sandame Hokage, and become the Godame Hokage. One I trust not to lie to about the important matters concerning the village, along with reminding you all that I am the only reason that there is not a war going on between Konoha and the other villages after that debacle during the Chunin exams, said the fire daimyo to the councils and clan heads, seeing them all humbly nod at his words. Meaning we will have to keep our noses clean for a long while, thought everyone in the room sitting in their respective seats. Now the new Hokage of Konoha, who I trust to keep you all in line, and not cause me so much trouble, will be Dr. Evil, said the fire daimyo, seeing the Hokage's chair turning around to reveal the bald man with a scar on his face wearing strange all-white clothing sitting in it. Hello everyone. I'm Dr. Evil and I'll be your Hokage from now on, said Dr. Evil, with everyone giving him a strange look. What are your qualifications? Said Inoichi, seeing the bald man looking at him with narrowed eyes. My qualifications? You're asking about my qualifications? Okay. My qualifications involve doing evil freakin' things, you jackass, said Dr. Evil, as he hit a button with the man's name on it, and made it fall back with a trapdoor, causing the Yamanaka clan head to fall into it before being burned alive. Holy shit, thought everyone while wondering when that was installed. Hence my doctorate in evilology, said Dr. Evil before giving them all a creepy smile. We're screwed, thought the clan heads. Now, the first order of business, as the new Hokage of this village, is I want to hear your ideas on how to acquire sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their heads, and have them swimming in a pool in this room for me to enjoy, said Dr. Evil, making everyone in the room swear drop. Yeah. They were all screwed. And Omake number 2 Sarutobi Hiruzen's afterlife punishment. The once great Sandame Hokage was dead. Killed slowly, painfully, and at the hands of the Sith Lord Darth Sage without an ounce of mercy from the young blonde. The former god of shinobi had tried to plead his case, but the Sith wouldn't hear of it, having learned the truth, and just wanted to make the man suffer without end. The Sandame went from pleading his case to speaking harshly to the boy, claiming it was a mistake to let him have so much freedom, and should have been locked away like the animal he was. That wasn't exactly encouraging Darth Sage to be merciful. Sarutobi Hiruzen, do you know why you are here standing before us? Said Kami, as the Shinigami and Yami stood beside the great deity. Because I did what I know is right and got killed for it, said the former Sandame, and got struck by lightning for it. Do not act like a smartass in front of us mortal. You and your village have broken the laws we set down when it came to the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. You will face our judgment and accept it, said the Shinigami while heavily glaring its deathly face in the old man's direction. And I'd do it again for the good of the village. I have no guilt regarding my actions and how that boy was treated, said Hiruzen, seeing the three deities were not amused.
Then you just made our decision on how to punish you all the easier, mortal, said Yami, as he snapped his fingers, and a massive desk filled with paperwork landed right in front of the old man. No. No. No, said Hiruzen at the shock of seeing the horror before him. That's right. Sarutobi Hiruzen, your punishment for disregarding our laws, and admitting to having absolutely no remorse for the treatment the Namikaze Naruto received in Konoha, you are hereby ordered to do our paperwork for all eternity, said Kami, as he produced a chair with the seat having a 12-feet long device, and had a sign saying, "Assholes sit on me." With a list of them, ranging from Adolf Hitler to Osama bin Laden and various other genocidal criminals that hate the world. And that's not all, said Yami before making a version of a young in his prime Danzo having sex with Hiruzen's wife when she was also in her prime right in front of the old man. Stop. Make it stop, said Hiruzen before he was picked up by the Shinigami and placed above the chair. You had your chance to feel remorse, old fool. Now watch as your hot wife gets her ass fucked by a man while you get yours by a chair, said the Shinigami before the deity slammed the man down on the long pointy object now going through his ass. Enjoy your time doing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen, as you are going to regret ever hurting the boy, and you will know remorse, even if it has to be shoved up your ass, said Kami, as the three left the once great Sandaime Hokage to do their paperwork while watching his wife being taken from behind by Danzo, and Hiruzen himself being violated in the same hole at the hands of a chair. At least it can't get any worse, thought Hiruzen while trying to block out the pain in his violated ass and trying to ignore his hot young-looking wife being fucked in ass right in front of him by a young Danzo, with both of them denouncing him and being a man during their screwing each other. Oh, one more thing I forgot. We installed this little feature in the chair a few centuries ago, and forgot to activate it, said Yami, as he shot a blast of energy at the chair, which caused it to start moving up and down at different heights that made Hiruzen's already violated ass feeling more abused. What the hell? Thought Hiruzen in surprise while crying out in pain. I love hydraulics, said Yami laughing at the old man's pain. And Omake hashtag 3 Danzo's punishment. Shimura Danzo was dead. He died painfully, slowly, and like Hiruzen without any form of mercy from his killer, Namikaze Naruto. Unlike the Sandaime Hokage, the old Warhawk didn't deny what he did to Whirlpool, actually taking pride in it, and was ruthlessly ripped apart by his enemy too. And here he was, facing 3 deities preparing to judge him. Shimura Danzo, do you know why you are here? Said Kami, seeing the man glare up at its forms. I do, but you won't pass judgment on me. None of you will, said Danzo while thinking he still had the Sharingan in his eye, and was shocked ruthlessly by the celestial lightning that struck his body. Your unnatural organs were removed before coming here, mortal. It's insulting that you would even think to use such things on us and expect them to work in the first place, said the Shinigami growling at the down man. I have no regrets for what I did. You can pass judgment on me, but I know what was done was meant to better the world, and I had to butcher 100 times as many people that the Leaf Village did on my order. I would do it again in heartbeat, said Danzo with all the conviction he could muster, before being struck again with much more force behind it. Which is why your punishment will be fitting for someone of your way of thinking, said Yami before the deity snapped its fingers and they were on a grassy plain with trees, flowers, rainbows in the sky, and something that made Danzo cringe at the sight above all things. No. No. Anything but that, said Danzo, as he began running away from the sight, and the 3 deities had to admit for an old guy with one arm he could run pretty fast. Especially when hundreds of gay naked hippies were coming your way to violate you in the name of brotherly love and world peace. How long do you think it will take before they catch up and violate him? Said Yami with the army of gay hippies catching up. In about 3, 2, 1, now, said Kami, as he made a rock manifest itself a few feet from Danzo, and the old Warhawk tripped before falling on the ground with his ass in the air. You couldn't have put him in a more compromising position with his situation. Ah. No. Stay back. Ah. No. No, not that, yelled Danzo,
as he was pounced on by gay naked hippies. "Should we feel sorry for him?" said the Shinigami, with the three looking at each other for a second. "Nah," said all three deities at once. "And Omake hashtag for Jiraiya's punishment. Jiraiya of the Sannin, do you know why you are? Oh, who we kidding, you damn well know why you're here," said Kami, as he was tired of saying the same thing over and over again like he did with the last two. "Yeah, could I possibly offer you three a copy of Ika Paradise in exchange for not hurting me?" said Jiraiya before being hit by celestial lighting from three different angles at the same time. "You dare try to bribe us with that smut?" said an angry Kami before shocking the man again. "As if we need such things when we can just appear in a mortal-like body and get laid the old-fashioned way," said Yami, since he had done it countless times in the past. "Getting back on track, you Jiraiya of the Sannin will face the ultimate punishment someone like yourself can receive for your actions against Namake's Naruto and the people of Whirlpool," said Shinigami, seeing Jiraiya whimper in fear. "But what about Naruto? He's done some evil stuff too and should be punished for his actions against the leaf," said Jiraiya before being struck again by Kami's lightning. "He wouldn't have done such evil things had you been a proper godfather to him. Hence why when Naruto dies, we intend to have him live in his own realm surrounded by hot busty women willing to please him in any way he sees fit, and to live peacefully in that place while being pleasured by them," said Kami, seeing Jiraiya's jaw drop. "What? How is that fair?" said Jiraiya before the three deities towered over him with menacing auras. "You have no right to question our judgment," yelled Kami while making Jiraiya cower in fear of the deity. "Sorry," said Jiraiya meekly. "As for your punishment, Jiraiya, this is it," said Kami, as he snapped his fingers, and the Sannin found himself in the village like it had never been destroyed by his Sith of a godson. And it was filled with gay men that had pink "I Love Jiraiya" t-shirts on. It was the only thing they had on. "Oh crap," said Jiraiya, which made every head turn toward him, and instantly the man wished he kept his mouth shut. "It's Jiraiya of the Sannin," said one guy, who was now gushing at the sight of the Sannin, and Jiraiya started to slowly back away. "I'm flattered, you know me, but I have to go, and not be anally raped," said Jiraiya, as he saw the guys around him looking hungrily, and wished hot women would have this reaction to him. "Oh, I bet you say that to all the guys that want to thank you for being alive, you stud muffin," said another guy much closer than the first. "Yeah. Maybe. Look over there. An autograph book of my new Yaoi ICHA Paradise book," yelled Jiraiya, making the gay men look at the direction he was pointing at before he took off to the Hokage Tower, knowing he could lock himself away in the Hokage's office for a while. The distraction didn't last long, as the village filled with gay horny men locked onto Jiraiya, and were all chasing him like Uchiha fangirls in heat. Making his way to the Hokage Tower, Jiraiya ran into the room, shut the doors, locked, and barricaded it with random furniture before looking at the rest of the room to find someone he never even expected to be in his hell. "Hello, Jiraiya-kun. Surprise?" said Tsunade, as she saw him look at her like something was off, and quickly tried to dispel the genjutsu he thought was placed on him. "Okay. You're real. That's good, I think," said Jiraiya, relaxing slightly. "Listen, Jiraiya, I have spoken to Kami, Yami, and the Shinigami about this punishment they gave you. I've worked out a way for you to square your debt to Naruto, me, and all of Whirlpool," said Tsunade, making Jiraiya's eyes widen with hope. "Really? How? What do I do?" said Jiraiya, knowing anything was better than being attacked by horny gay men that seemed to only like him. Again, why couldn't hot horny women be like that? Simple. "You have sex with me," said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya's eyes light up. "Really? All right," said Jiraiya, not seeing the devious smirk on Tsunade's face before it was too late. Moments later. "Don't worry, Jiraiya-kun. When this is all over, your debt will be squared away, and you can go down into normal hell where the other asshole are," said Tsunade, standing behind Jiraiya's naked form bent over the Hokage's desk, arms tied behind his back, and legs tied to each corner of the desk. "Wait. Wait. This isn't what I had in mind when you said we would finally have sex.
I was thinking something more romantic, said Jiraiya before he found his mouth gagged by a red ball tied to his mouth. As always, Jiraiya-kun, your way of getting off is completely different from mine, and there is one more thing you should know about me, said Tsunade, smiling evilly at him.
YFKSHF,
said Jiraiya, which translated would be what is that,
and just made the smile on Tsunade's face grow more sinister.
I'm a hermaphrodite, said Tsunade before pressing her rather large male appendage towards the Toad Sanon's back door.
YFK,
yelled Jiraiya through the ball gag. A small gift from Kami, Yami, and the Shinigami after they felt I should have a hand in your punishment.
Oh, about the debt between Naruto, Whirlpool, and myself? I lied, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya squirming further to break free. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. This is a bad dream. Yes. That's it. A bad dream.
I'll close my eyes really tight, and when I open them up again, I'll be safe in my little hut with my smutty books ready to banish this nightmare from my mind forever, thought Jiraiya, as he closed his eyes, and clenched his S tightly.
Oh. So you're going to fight me to the bitter end, Jiraiya-kun? Good. I want you to.
Now, scream for me, said Tsunade into his ear before thrust forward, and true enough Jiraiya let out the loudest scream he had ever done in the history of his life.
This is not a dream. It's a nightmare.
A horrible and violent ass-raping nightmare.
Thought Jiraiya, as Tsunade rode him violently, and laughing at him the entire time. Should we feel guilty this time?
Said the Shinigami, seeing the other two deities think for a moment. Maybe, said Kami with a shrug.
Just a little. You? Said Yami simply.
Just checking, and for my own answer, no, said the Shinigami before releasing the barricade on the door to the Hokage's office to allow the gay horny men through.
Now,
said Yami with a raised eyebrow.
No, I still got nothing. Who wants to go bless a dark hero with a harem of strong horny women now?
Said the Shinigami, seeing Kami and Yami sweat dropped.
What have I told you about showing our brother anime shows?
Said Yami with Kami slumping slightly.
Not to show them to him no matter what, said Kami with a cheesy laugh and smile on his face, before being punched in the head by Yami.
Chapter 9, More Pilfering.
What is thy bidding, my master?
Thought Darth Sage, as he knelt within his mind before the Sith Lord sitting on the dark throne, and awaited the Mune's commands.
I sense a disturbance in the Force.
Konoha has appointed a new Hokage sooner than we expected, said Darth Plagueis while seeing his apprentice stiffen at this news.
I was busy with my recent mission into sound to have sensed it, my master. Who is the current Hokage of the Leaf?
Thought Darth Sage, sensing the Mune was not pleased with his lack of sensing this change.
His name is Sarutobi Asuma.
The Sandaime Hokage's own son, said Darth Plagueis while his apprentice's power spiked at the mentioning of the last name. With him in power, the lockdown on the village will soon be released, if not already, and the Leaf will double their efforts to track me down, thought Darth Sage with his master in full agreement. I sense they already have. During the lockdown, Suna has been getting more clients, and the Wind Daimyo has been redirecting missions back to them instead of Konoha. They are acting out like a wild injured animal seeking the blood of the one that spilled theirs. Be mindful, they will not show you mercy, and will do everything in their power to make you suffer, said Plagueis, warned from his own unique experiences in seeing such crazed animals throughout the galaxy act in that manner, and not all of them instinct-driven. I will prepare for them, my master, thought Darth Sage before fading from his mind. Refocusing on the outside world, the second Sith apprentice of Darth Plagueis the Wise stopped walking with his now 4 bodyguards back to Whirlpool, and the others obeyed without command. Reaching out with the Force, Darth Sage sensed they were not alone, and quickly drew his sword Lunar Eclipse.
Sage-sama?
Said Lee, as he saw Karen tense up beside him, and quickly drew his katana sword from his back.
We have company, said Darth Sage before their group was surrounded by Leaf Shinobi with the kanji for root on their masks. Leaf Shinobi? But, how did they find us so fast? Said Karen while looking at them all with their weapons drawn. They are agents of Danzo. After the lockdown was lifted, he must have had those that were out of the village be informed of our location, and ordered them to intercept us until reinforcements could arrive, said Darth Sage while Kimimaro glared angrily at them. By the order of Shimura Danzo, you will all surrender to us, and then be subjected to thorough interrogation upon our return to Konoha, said the leader of the squad. And if we refuse? Said Lee, seeing them all prepare for a fight. Then everyone in your group with the exception of the 2 Jinchuriki will die, said the same root shinobi while Darth Sage merely chuckled. Fool. Just like your master. Kimimaro. Said Darth Sage before turning his head slightly towards the albino. Yes, Sage-sama? Said Kimimaro, ready for orders. I think it's time we test out your newly restored strength. Unleash the fury your clan is still well known for upon your new master's enemies, said Darth Sage while the root shinobi around them spanning no more than 15 total shifts slightly to the albino. Yes, my master, said Kimimaro, as he brought out bones from the limbs of his body, and charged forward with the intention of crushing the Sith's enemies. The group of root shinobi were overwhelmed by the Kagaya's assault, as they were now divided between containing their targets to fighting Kimimaro, and couldn't do both when their numbers dwindled down. One tried to make a run for it, but Darth Sage threw lunar eclipse at the fleeing root ninja, and took his head off before recalling the weapon back through the force. Looking around him, the Sith could see the area stained in blood, his newly acquired tool showered in the crimson liquid, and further proved the albino was indeed what he was looking for in terms of a deadly weapon of a subordinate. Impressive, Kimimaro. Most impressive, said Darth Sage as he sheathed his sword, and then clapped at his tool's effectiveness in battle. Thank you, master, said Kimimaro bowing his head at the Sith. Come. We have to go before more of them arrive, said Darth Sage, knowing they had wasted enough time hurting Konoha. For now, anyway. Konoha Hokage's office. No, Dad. You can't. Said Asuma, as he saw his father being the stubborn old man the newly made Godame Hokage knew he was, and hated these meetings. It must be done. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki has to be captured, and I am the only one in the Leaf capable of training an elite team to fight him, said the former Sandaime Hokage of Konoha. Enough. We are on thin ice with the Fire Daimyo right now, and this idea you've been pitching to me ever since I became Hokage is not helping. The Fire Daimyo doesn't want us going after Naruto at all, and he won't change his mind anytime soon, said Asuma with the older Sarutobi looking furiously at him. That boy is the property of the Leaf. Every day he breathes outside of this village is an insult to me and Konoha, said Hiruzen angrily while glaring at his son for denying his request. Shut up and listen to yourself for once, Dad. I know why you're acting this way regarding Naruto, and it's certainly not because he's village property like you keep saying he is. We both know you blame him for Mom's death, but it was not his fault, and doesn't deserve any of your contempt. Said Asuma, seeing his father getting angrier by the second. He, along with every single one of those Uzumakis, deserve all of it. We brought the last one here from Whirlpool, protected her, allowed that bitch to be with my successor, and have his child with this damn boy she brought into this world. She repaid my kindness for being allowed to breathe by siring a child that betrayed this village. Betrayed me, said Hiruzen with a somewhat crazy look in his eyes that Asuma didn't like. Sure, he was sad his mother died. What son wasn't? But the fact remained, Naruto didn't kill her, and even the Kyuubi ironically enough was innocent in the matter since none of its chakra was detected around her upon retrieving the body. To Asuma, it seemed his father had decided to blame both Naruto and Kyuubi for the one death neither could claim the right to doing in the first place. You betrayed him, Kushina, and every other member of that bloodline first, Dad. What did you think was going to happen when he discovered the truth behind your own selfish actions? Something you seem to forget. That boy is a living, breathing person, Dad, and if you oppose me on this, I will have you executed for treason, said Asuma, seeing the crazy look in his father's eyes spike slightly when hearing this. You would order my execution? Me? Your own father? said Hiruzen, seeing Asuma's eyes harden at the challenge issued. You keep following this path and you're not my father anymore. Just another person in this village lower than trash that have no choice but to call my father, said Asuma, while the former Hokage just sneered at him. This isn't over, said Hiruzen before leaving the room, while his son let out a tired sigh. You know what the saddest thing about that is, Dad? You are absolutely right, said Asuma bitterly, knowing this wouldn't be over for a long time. Whirlpool sometime later. Welcome to your new home, Kimimaro. I'm sorry it doesn't look like much, but since we just moved in not that long ago, it looks better than it did before, and I plan to continue making improvements in the years to come. Come, said Darth Sage, showing Kimimaro his mother's homeland and the long way it had to go before it could be restored to the great place he knew it had once been. I'll help in any way to speed up the process, Sage-sama, said Kimimaro, as he saw the Sith smirk and nod his head in acceptance to that offer. I'll hold you to that, Kimimaro. Now, let's see if we can get you some new clothes, and meet the others that have joined me, said Darth Sage before removing some rubble with the Force to reveal a secret underground passageway underneath the destroyed land. Welcome home, Sage-sama, said Haku, as she greeted her master, and then noticed Kimimaro behind him with shocked wide eyes. You! I know you, said Kimimaro in shock at seeing the girl once more. Really? You know Kimimaro? How so, Haku? Said Darth Sage curiously at them. We met briefly when I was still a little girl traveling with Zabuza. He thought we were enemies, but shortly after seeing my eyes, Kimimaro realized that wasn't true, and ran away from us to go wherever he was heading, said Haku, seeing Kimimaro nod. It's true. Strange how we find ourselves meeting again and serving a common master, said Kimimaro, with Haku nodding in agreement. You can catch up later. For now, a shower for our group, and of course new clothing for the newest edition are in order, said Darth Sage, knowing they could all use one after being in sound. Several hours later. What is the next step in your plan, Sage-sama? Said Suzumabachi, as she wanted to be involved in them this time, and prove useful to him. I'm glad you asked, my dear, as I have questions about IWA, and right now only you can answer them for me, said Darth Sage, as he saw her surprise, and was eager to help. What questions, master? Said Suzumabachi, with the others keeping their ears open and paying attention to this conversation. Tell me about IWA and its Jinchuriki? Said Darth Sage, while seeing the woman wince at him, knowing he wasn't going to like it. Iwas to Jinchuriki? Said Suzumabachi nervously, while the Sith just nodded. Yes. Tell me about them. What are their lives like in IWA? How they are treated? Tell me everything, said Darth Sage, seeing the bee-using woman now fidgeting nervously in his presence instead of answering. Sage-sama asked you a question, bitch. Answer him, said Kimimaro with a raised voice at the former IWA Kunoichi before the Sith raised a hand to calm the albino down. Enough, Kimimaro. It's clear Suzumabachi is hesitant to tell me, not out of disrespect, but my reaction to what she wants to tell me, and what I hear will not be pleasant. Am I right, my dear? Said Darth Sage, seeing the woman nod submissively. I would never answer out of disrespect to you, Sage-sama, but IWA has, well, they haven't been kind to their two Jinchuriki, and they don't like being mistreated either. They have both been trained harshly to be weapons of IWA, hated by the people there, and yet forced to do the bidding of the third Tsuchikage, said Suzumabachi sadly, while her master's dark presence became even darker. I see. Their names? Said Darth Sage, wanting to have a name to each of Iwa's Jinchuriki in IWA. Han and Rashi, said Suzumabachi simply, while the Sith just nodded in thought. Do you plan to rescue them from IWA and have them join us, master? Said Karen, seeing the young Sith apprentice of Darth Plagueis going into his deep thinking trance before smiling again. Very perceptive, Karen. Yes, I do intend to free them from Iwa's cruelty, said Darth Sage, with the redhead blushing at his praise. But won't that make IWA your enemy too, like Kumo and the Leaf? Said Haku, knowing that Tsuchikage wouldn't take this lying down. Of course, but let's face it, my dear, the shinobi villages act like spoiled children, and it's one of my goals to remind them of the order of things. They need to be reminded by us that you are not invincible despite what they believe in, and I intend to make that fact painfully clear, said Darth Sage, knowing that getting to IWA would be difficult without a proper guide. There is also another matter I feel should be brought to your attention, Sage-sama, said Kimimaro, as he had overheard this information when Orochimaru was still alive, and felt this concerned the Sith too. About the Akatsuki? I know, said Darth Sage, much to the surprise of the albino. How? Said Kimimaro, surprised the Sith knew he was referring to the Akatsuki. Kabuto's mind. When I drained it for information, I learned he was once a spy for one of its members, but then became a loyal servant of Orochimaru, and that the Sannin himself was once a member. I also know they are hunting down Jinchuriki, but for what exactly still eludes me, and will require further inquiry, said Darth Sage, knowing he needed more info on the organization and what they need Jinchuriki for. How do we find out more? Said Hinata, knowing such an organization knew how to keep secrets. Simple, my dear. We find one or more of their higher-up members and make them tell us what we want to know, said Darth Sage, as he knew that those members would come to him, and it was simply a matter of time before such information was in his grasp. All he needed was a strong enough reason for them to act, and the Sith could think of nothing better than 4 Jinchuriki being in a single spot for them to pounce on. Akatsuki HQ. We have a lead? Said Pain, with the others assembled around him that were the highest members of the organization. Yes. Our informants have informed us that they sighted the Kyuubi Jinchuriki heading towards IWA. Considering the boy's past success in recruiting shinobi from different villages to his side, it's possible he's going to IWA in order to retrieve their 2 Jinchuriki, and further bolster his ranks, said Itachi, while Pain considered this. If he does, it could pose a problem for us, as each Jinchuriki alone is easier to handle than all of them banding together, and further halt our progress, said Pain, as he did not like the idea of having his plan stalled, and by the Kyuubi Jinchuriki no less. We should stop him before that happens, said Conan, with Pain nodding in agreement. Yes. We should. Itachi. Kisame. Intercept the Kyuubi Jinchuriki before he gets to IWA and recruits the other 2, said Pain, seeing the 2 nods before heading out. There is still the matter of Suna's Jinchuriki, said Sasori, knowing the boy would be among the first they grab. We will deal with him soon enough. The demons must be extracted in a certain order or the what we are trying to do will fail, said Pain, seeing the others nod in acceptance to this face. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki shouldn't be like this. By all reports, the boy should be weak, stupid, and unable to think clearly, said Conan when she was alone with Pain to talk about this development in private. The only way a Jinchuriki that young can be so strong in such a short time is to have a teacher keep such a thing from happening, said Pain, while Conan frowned in thought. But no one in the Leaf trained him, said Conan, which made Pain turn to face her, and sought his own frown. Then someone outside the Leaf did, and kept it hidden for so long before the Sandaime Hokage could figure out what was happening, said Pain simply. But who? Said Conan, with Pain wondering that too. Find out. Look over the information on the boy since his birth and see when any changes were made that would allow his mysterious teacher to reveal himself to the Jinchuriki, said Pain, knowing they had their spies monitoring the boy while he was in the Leaf and knew the Kyuubi vessel's life had been less than pleasant. If there was a connection, Pain would find it, then the teacher, and finally, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Gato Kanpani at the moment. The board of directors looked at the shadow clone of Darth Sage sitting in front of them at the head of the conference table, hearing the latest reports from each member, and how their new chairman's latest business strategy had doubled the company's profits. Wave Country was doing business with them without problems, the place slowly turning pro-Gato Kanpani, and news of the recent power struggle growing within Rice Country was providing their items from the illegal side of the company make a great deal of profit. Mist was currently still fighting rebels, which currently had both being supplied their own weapons through illegal channels from the company, with the Mizukage paying up front, and the rebels being offered a long-term payment plan. Though whether the rebels actually won the war to pay them remained to be seen by the board of directors, who had first become hesitant to have such a plan in place for them, but Darth Sage had given the order, and had full confidence in them to beat the Mizukage. As for Snow Country, the current tyrant for a ruler named Doto was another powerful individual the Sith wished to do business with, and do a bit of trading with the man. Of course, the assigned business envoy Darth Sage sent a few days ago had yet to arrive in Snow Country and speak with the man. Of course, the Sith had no doubts that there was a chance the envoy sent would not return alive given the rumored nature of the tyrant, but if the envoy made it sound like trade between them was worth looking into, then perhaps the envoy would live to see another day outside of Snow Country, and report back good news.
What news do we have on Fire Country?
More importantly, our own representative in the Fire Daimyo's court, said Darth Sage, as he addressed Hibiki Goro to rise and speak about their progress. Our representative in the Fire Daimyo's court has made some progress, but not enough to get the feudal lord's ear. His advisors are extremely picky about who they let near him, as they don't want the wrong kind of influence speaking into the daimyo's ear, and risk causing damage to Fire Country, said Goro, seeing the Sith nod in understanding.
It's to be expected. The advisors of feudal lords are the guardians of in terms of the politics within the courts that the daimyos are in.
So, if we can't get the ears of the Fire Daimyo himself, we will get the ears of one, or more of his advisors instead. We gain control of the guardians of the politics so we can gain control of the daimyo himself and thus the entire country through shadowed rule, said Darth Sage, while the other directors of the board looked surprised by this.
How do we do that, Sage-sama? Said a member of the board. Simple. Everyone has a vice of some sort. Find and gain proof of it. Then make sure the advisor knows we know about it.
That we will exploit it unless my will is carried out in the Fire Daimyo's court, said Darth Sage, seeing them nod, knowing they had the money and resources for the job in finding those things out.
Earth Country. Someone is here, Sage-sama, said Kimimaro on edge while his master nodded. I know.
I've been expecting them for some time, said Darth Sage, as he sent out a low pulse of Kyuubi's chakra towards IWA, knowing the two specific people would sense and pursue it if only out of curiosity.
It's him, Han, said the figure in the trees. I know Rashi. Should we introduce ourselves?
Said Han, seeing Rashi nod before they both landed on the ground.
Identify yourselves,
said Kimimaro, as he was prepared to defend his master, and saw the two IWA shinobi stand side by side.
I am Han.
Jinchuriki of the five-tailed gobi, said Han, taking a step forward and bowing slightly.
I am Rashi.
Jinchuriki of the four-tailed Yanbi, said Rashi, doing the same.
I am Darth Sage.
Dark Lord of the Sith and Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed Kyuubi, said Darth Sage, bowing his head slightly while gesturing for Kimimaro to introduce himself.
I am Kagaya Kimimaro.
Last of the Kagaya clan and loyal servant to Darth Sage, said Kimimaro while keeping an eye on the two IWA Jinchuriki.
We've heard a lot about you, Darth Sage. Konoha has been cursing your name for some time after they learned what you did from under their very nose. I take it you are here to recruit us like you did the others at the Chunin exams?
Said Rashi, seeing the Sith just smirk behind his hood at the question.
Yes. For one, you will not be treated harshly under my rule like IWA has done since each of you had a demon sealed inside your body, and two, there is a looming threat aimed at all Jinchuriki, said Darth Sage, seeing both of them curious to the shadow of an enemy. What looming threat? Said Han, deciding to speak the question knowing the answer would give them a name to it. The Akatsuki organization, said Uchiha Itachi, appearing with Kisame now from the shadows. Uchiha Itachi. It's been some time.
Joined the Akatsuki, I see, said Darth Sage while Han and Rashi went into defensive stances now aimed at the newcomers.
I had no choice.
I needed their protection from the leaf after I killed almost everyone in the Uchiha clan, said Itachi, seeing the Sith nod.
Of course, you did. It makes sense.
Though you should also thank me as well, since my leaving Konoha after leaving my own mark redirected their attention away from hunting you down, said Darth Sage while Itachi did nod in agreement over that simple fact.
True.
You have my thanks, said Itachi with the Sith smirking even further. You're welcome, but as you well know, we are at opposite sides of things given what I am, and who you serve in connection to that fact. That is where our pleasantries between each other comes to an end, said Darth Sage, seeing the Uchiha nod while Kisame was grinning more and bringing out his sword. I can take off their legs, right Itachi? They don't really need them for what we have to do for the extraction, said Kisame while Itachi sighed. Darth Sage drew out Lunar Eclipse, and Kimimaro was now prepared to unleash his fury on the pair. Kisame, you idiot, said Itachi while activating his eyes. Kimimaro, deal with the blue-skinned one. The Uchiha is mine, said Darth Sage while the albino Kagaya just nodded and charged at Kisame with his spiked bone obtrusions out and ready to stain with the former seven swordsmen of the Mist's blood. We'll fight beside you, said Rashi stepping forward on the Sith's left side. Your enemy is our enemy too, said Han on Darth Sage's right. Thank you both for that offer, but this fight must be between Itachi and myself since we are both former residents of Konoha, said Darth Sage while Kimimaro off to the side was using his agility to dodge Kisame's sword. I will not go easy on you, Naruto, said Itachi, drawing his own sword. I don't expect you to, Itachi. After all, you have your orders, said Darth Sage in a semi-mocking tone while Itachi's eyebrow twitched. So, you know, said Itachi almost gratefully while seeing the Sith smirk at him. Difficult not to. You're projecting thoughts rather loudly and on purpose, said Darth Sage while Itachi moved forward, and then the Sith did the same with their swords clashing. And surprisingly, Itachi's blade didn't get destroyed, or himself in the process. I thought you should know who I report to, and why, said Itachi calmly. Two clashed once more with their blades in their own dance of death. He's channeling his chakra into the sword to prevent it from being cut in half, said Kyuubi simply while the two tried to cut the other in half. Your skills are impressive. Whoever taught you was very skilled, said Itachi, as he was trying to have the boy slip up and reveal the name of his teacher. Thank you. I could say the same about yours, said Darth Sage, as he used Form 4 Adaru to make things increasingly difficult for Itachi and his Sharingan eyes. So you know that too. Interesting. That was the one thought I wasn't projecting, said Itachi before grunting when the Sith's sword nicked his leg. No, but it was there beneath your surface thoughts when you asked about my teacher, and the true source behind Uchiha Massacre's success, said Darth Sage while Itachi's eyes widened slightly at those words. I see. Since you've dug into my mind, allow me to return the favor and dig into yours. Tsukuyomi, said Itachi, as there was only one way to find out the truth behind the mysterious teacher Naruto possessed, and Itachi would find it using his eyes. Tsukuyomi world. This is my world, Naruto. For the next 72 hours, you are mine to deal with as I see fit, and will know the way of pain by my hands, said Itachi, as he had his sword in hand, and Naruto put on a cross to be stabbed repeatedly since it was the simplest way to do things. I'm actually kind of flattered to know Uchiha Itachi would use his Sharingan in such a way to find out who my teacher was, and how he made me so powerful. For that, you can meet him, and he can teach you a few things, said Darth Sage looking behind the Uchiha and saw Plagueis appearing with a copy of Lunar Eclipse in hand. What are you? Said Itachi, turning to see the spirit of the Sith Lord in this world and found himself unable to manipulate it upon the Moon. I, a Dark Lord of the Sith. My name is Darth Plagueis the Wise, and you, dear boy, are not welcome here in my apprentice's mind, said Darth Plagueis while Itachi frowned at him. You are not human, said Itachi, seeing the features of the Sith in front of him that, while showed he was humanoid, was not of the human race, and yet was clearly a being one did not wish to cross. No. I just live and want to temporarily cheat death just long enough for me to pass on all of my knowledge and power to my apprentice here, said Darth Plagueis before he moved quickly and stabbed the Uchiha in the gut. Much to Itachi's surprise, he felt it. How is that possible? Said Itachi before Plagueis pulled out the weapon, looked at him amused. This is my apprentice's mind. You really think just because you brought this illusionary world to life for a mere 72 standard hours that it was only yours to control during that time? How very presumptuous of you. Just like your clan before you killed them. You think my apprentice and I haven't considered he might meet again on hostile terms? If there is one thing my student does the most, is he never leaves anything to chance, and is prepared for such a possibility. We've been preparing for this day since he departed from Konoha.
Kyuubi was most helpful, as he admitted to its power being used over him by Uchiha Madara on more than one occasion, and its many special abilities being a topic of discussion during my apprentice's travels throughout the elemental countries. This one in particular, I found to be the most interesting, and see why you would use it on my apprentice along with any other Jinchuriki you face in the future, said Plagueis, as he moved swiftly behind Itachi, and stabbed him in the back directly through the spine. This still shouldn't be possible, said Itachi, as he felt the stab, and the sword responsible being pulled out by the Sith Lord. Only to someone of weaker mind. Neither my apprentice or myself for that matter are under any such category. If the mind of the intended victim is stronger, then this world is not yours to command anymore, and for the next 72 standard hours you will become our student in the ways of pain. In the way of the Sith, said Plagueis before freeing Darth Sage from the cross Itachi tied him to and made the Uchiha take several steps back. I need to stop this before it gets out of hand, thought Itachi, as he tried to cancel out the Genjutsu world, but found himself experiencing a powerful headache when an attempt was made, and it grew in strength each time the Uchiha tried to end it. You really think we'd let you leave? Fool! You leave when the time limit is up and not a second sooner, said Darth Sage, as he blasted Itachi with Sith lightning, and Itachi let out a scream of pain while Darth Plagueis watched his student attack the Uchiha without mercy before stopping after 5 minutes. So much to teach you and so little time. Don't worry though, Uchiha Itachi, we will both teach you well with the time given, and know someone such as yourself will learn greatly from our lessons, said Darth Plagueis, as he used the force to systematically break one of Itachi's fingers at a time in each hand, and then moved up to the arms before focusing on the legs. So many ways to inflict pain, so little time. Real world. Kisame knew something was wrong the moment Itachi was sent flying back into a tree with a sickening thud and screaming out in unimaginable pain at whatever happened in the Genjutsu world of Tsukuyami. It was clear the boy had done something to turn the tables on Itachi, and Kisame knew that the Uchiha needed to get out of here in order to inform Pain of what happened. Dodging a whip attack from Kimimara's bone-like weapon made from his spine, which Kisame found to be completely gross, the swordsman flooded the area with water before grabbing Itachi, and made a tactical retreat. With the 2 Akatsuki members gone, the albino Kagaya kneeled before his master, begging for the Sith's forgiveness in not killing the former 7 swordsmen of the mist, and Darth Sage merely told Kimimaro it was alright. Don't worry, my friend. You will have another chance at him in the future. Though next time I expect you to come out victorious via slaying your enemy and not forcing him to retreat due to other reasons, said Darth Sage in a friendly to scolding manner, which the albino nodded in acceptance, and knew the only true victory that could be accepted from the Sith was absolute one. I'll train hard for the upcoming battle, my master, said Kimimaro while his master just nodded and turned to address the 2 Jinchuriki from IWA. Those were just 2 members of the Akatsuki, my friends. 2 among 9, and all of them are S-class missing mean, with each one capable of disabling a Jinchuriki's powers. IWA will not defend you, they don't have a reason care about your lives unless they need you for a war, and even then they will throw you away once it's over, said Darth Sage with the 2 Jinchuriki nodding at the fact they knew this was true. And if we join you? Said Han with the Sith smiling at them. I want my fellow Jinchuriki to be strong. Stronger than they ever could be while being domesticated by their villages and hated for existing. Ironic really when they are the ones that made you into Jinchuriki in the first place, said Darth Sage with the 2 nodding in agreement. You will have to go after the others and no doubt they won't be so easy to grab, said Rashi with the Sith nodding. I know, but that's what makes it so exciting, and I hate being bored, said Darth Sage with a smile on his face. What do you think? Said Han seeing Rashi shrug. Following him beats living in IWA and being treated like crap, said Rashi knowing at least with the Sith they won't be hated. I'm in, said Han knowing any place was better than IWA at the moment. Me too, said Rashi not wanting to be in this area near IWA any longer than necessary. Then follow me to your new home, my friends. It's still under construction, but currently safe from prying eyes, and you will also meet the Nibi Jinchuriki formerly of Kyumo there too, said Darth Sage while sensing the shock at what they just heard.
I heard the various rumors of the Raikage being extremely upset at both the Leaf Village and yourself for the loss of his squad that entered the Chunin exams, said Han while the Sith just smirked behind his hood and nodded. Indeed, he is. I took several of his so-called genin, who weren't really genin at all, and convinced them to join me after revealing a hidden secret behind the plan being created to learn the secrets of the Byakugan, said Darth Sage while both Jinchuriki behind him shook their heads at how stupid the Kages of this world were acting in terms of their own selfish desires. When will people with incredible power realize there are some things not even they can have? Said Rashi with a sigh soon following. Such is the way of humanity, my friends. People with incredible power want only one thing, and that is more power. They don't know when to stop and they pay a heavy price for trying in the end, said Darth Sage while sensing his master within the depths of his mind scowling slightly at the involuntary jab at Plagueis if not all Sith before him. Though Plagueis ignored the hit in the end, as he knew his Sith apprentice was merely appealing to the two Jinchuriki, and further secure their loyalty. A good Sith tactic, indeed, when used properly. The thoughts on the matter ended sometime later when the group soon found themselves surrounded by Leaf Shinobi consisting of Yui Kurenai, Inuzuka Hana, Hatake Kakashi, Hyuga Niji, Madogai, and Aburame Shino. Kurenai was glaring daggers at the young Sith for taking the girl she had seen as an adopted daughter and had a look in her eyes that promised to unleash a great deal of pain upon him. The others were more calm than anything, as they all knew keeping a cool head was key to the success of their mission, and returning safely home. Where's Hinata and Anko? Said Kurenai while spitting out the words venomously at the boy. Well, this is an interesting surprise. You must have run people over in the Leaf to see the new Hokage to request this mission of hunting me down for answers. I wonder now, what was it exactly that allowed you to convince him to sanction this mission, and hunt me down with such anger? Said Darth Sage in an almost mocking voice that made Kurenai become more infuriated by him at the innuendo. I'll ask you one more time before we force you to tell us where they are. Said Kurenai while the Kyuubi Jinchuriki just laughed at her. Even if you did make me reveal the location of my subordinates, they won't come back to the Leaf, Iwa, Grass, or Kumo if given the choice. They hate their former village and I can't say I blame them. Hinata was hated by her own clan for being supposedly weak and timid. You did little to help, except smothering her and keeping the Hyuga girl stagnant instead of pushing Hinata to get stronger. Anko was hated for her past connection to the now late Orochimaru and still would be long after the Sannin's death. What kind of life is that for them? Said Darth Sage while Kurenai just got angrier. Surrender and the Godame Hokage promises to give you a fair trial, said Kakashi, as he had his Sharingan eye out, and saw the two Jinchuriki along with Kimimaro prepare to defend their master. I have heard it all before from the Sandaime Hokage when I was still a weak naive child Hatake Kakashi. I am not interested in the Leaf's false promises. We both know Konoha speaks double talk very well when it comes to making deals with others, said Darth Sage while Kakashi narrowed his eyes at him. You should know your place and just submit, said Kakashi with the Sith just smiling at him. Really? I could say the same for you too. Tell Jiraiya of the Sannin to come out now. I know he's hiding behind us waiting to flank me, said Darth Sage with the Leaf Shinobi all tensing before Jiraiya finally appeared behind Han and Rashi with a scowl on his face. So, you knew, said Jiraiya wondering how the boy sensed him. Wasn't hard. With this team here at my front, it was only natural you would be here too, and positioning yourself to strike when I least suspected, said Darth Sage with a smile and heard Kimimaro switch positions to hold off Jiraiya should the Sannin attack. Regardless, you are outnumbered, have nowhere to go, and while the Hokage did order us to bring you back unharmed if possible, we are not hesitant in disobeying that last part to successfully bring your body back to the Leaf, said Jiraiya seeing the Sith smirk in his direction. Your arrogance blinds you, Jiraiya of the Sannin. Never assume you have the upper hand against a Sith. It can lead to your doom. Said Darth Sage before he went poof right in front of them to reveal the boy they were talking to was in fact a shadow clone. With the others soon following to reveal Kimimaro, Han, and Rashi were shadow clone copies too. Damn that boy. Said Kurenai, who was clearly pissed at being denied her much desired revenge against Naruto, and knowing where to find their missing comrades. When did he teach them the shadow clone jutsu? said Kakashi, knowing such a jutsu was difficult to learn without the Sharingan. I don't know, but he clearly prepared for our arrival, and made all of us look like fools, said Jiraiya while cursing mentally over his inability to catch the boy off guard. We need a new plan, said Guy, seeing the others nod in agreement. We need to find the exact location of Naruto's base and then strike when he's there, said Shino, using logic to pinpoint their next plan of attack. Wouldn't it be at Gado Kanpani? Said Kurenai, knowing that was the company Naruto was rumored to be running after taking it over from its previous chairman. Yes and no. He's there at times, but no one knows when, and there is no telling how long Naruto stays. We need the location of the base Naruto goes to when he's not there, said Jiraiya, having a difficult time with his spy network knowing when that is, since none of them were at a high enough level within the company to know these things. We could ask Suna for help, said Hana, knowing Suna was their ally and could help in catching the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I doubt they'd do it, said Jiraiya, with everyone looking at him now. What? Why? Said Kurenai, knowing Suna should be helping them in this matter since they could have shinobi stolen from them next. Because Gado Kanpani has been providing funding for Suna shortly after the Chunin exams ended and has helped them out more than the Wind Daimyo ever did. They aren't going to bite the massive hand that fed them a vast amount of wealth to get back on their feet, said Jiraiya, having monitored some of the accounts of Gado Kanpani and saw a good chunk of money go to Suna. So, Naruto has basically bought himself the support of Suna, said Kakashi to simplify the answer. Yeah. The Kazekage has gotten more clients after the Chunin exams than ever before, and with the money from Gado Kanpani along with more funding from a humbled Wind Daimyo, there is not a chance in hell of them ever backstabbing Naruto for his hand in all of it, said Jiraiya, having suspected that Naruto visited the Kazekage prior to the Chunin exams to help put this in motion. Though how that happened, Jiraiya didn't know, and was still trying to figure out. Whirlpool Country Underground Base. Welcome to your new home. Like the others here before you have seen, it's not much right now, but the groundwork is underway to change that and become your new home, said Darth Sage while showing them around and meeting the others. I had heard stories about the Uzumaki clan of Whirlpool. They were feared for their mastery of the sealing arts and their long-lasting lifespans, said Rashi while the Sith himself just nodded. It's my mother's homeland. She was the previous Kyuubi Jinchuriki before me, and the Shodame Hokage's own wife was one before her, said Darth Sage while Han and Rashi were shocked by this. Do you know that IWA had nothing to do with Whirlpool's destruction? Said Han while the boy just nodded. I've known for a while. The leaf also spread lies of IWA performing the deed and then make others believe it. They turned my mother's people into martyrs in order to gain the support of other places to fight IWA in the last Shinobi War, calling all the people of your former village bloodthirsty murderers, and anyone that sided with them, said Darth Sage, having had several visions of the past via the Force and saw how the Sandaime Hokage conspired with Danzo to use this to their advantage during the war in hopes of spurring Konoha's Yellow Flash to cripple IWA during the war. But Tsuchikage denied Iwa's involvement in that matter for years. He claimed the leaf was framing the village and that there wasn't a shred of proof to confirm it was true, said Rashi while Han nodded since they both heard it all before. Well, the Tsuchikage was right. Suzuma Bachi, said Darth Sage, which got the woman's attention, and the two Jinchuriki behind the Sith were partially surprised to see the former IWA shinobi alive since Kuratsuchi had claimed her teammate had been killed during the Chunin exams. Yes, Sage-sama, said Suzuma Bachi, immediately appearing in front of him before she bowed in his presence. Show Han and Rashi to their rooms. Kimimaro, you will be sparring in taijutsu with Rock Lee, and I don't want either of you to stop until you're both on the ground too tired to lift a finger, said Darth Sage, seeing Kimimaro nod. Yes, Sage-sama, said Kimimaro and Suzuma Bachi at the same time before they carried out his orders while the Sith himself went to visit a certain female ice user. Haku, how is Tenten's progress going? Said Darth Sage, seeing Haku was watching Tenten with a critical eye and smiled happily at her master's return when she turned to face him. Better, Sage-sama. She was defiant at first, but I informed her of what Konoha did to its longtime ally of Whirlpool, and that siding with the leaf was siding with dishonorable traitors.
Though I would still keep an eye on her just to ensure she doesn't get any idea of betraying you, said Haku, knowing the girl didn't believe her at first, but the memory seal their master created from his own experience in discovering the truth for this before his departure had helped fill things in, and had shaken Tenten's loyalty to the leaf down to its very foundation. I will. We shall put the girl through one final test to prove her loyalty to me, said Darth Sage while Tenten spun her bowstaff around to perform a dead strike. And should she fail? Said Haku, already knowing the answer. Put Tenten down personally, Haku. End her. No fake death states like you did Zabuza while in his service to fool your enemies. No kind of paralysis. She betrays me and you kill her. No excuses. No hesitation. Am I clear? Said Darth Sage, seeing the female ice user stiffen at the command, and nodded all the same. Crystal clear, Sage-sama, said Haku obediently while the Sith nodded and left. What do you plan to do now, my apprentice? Said Darth Plagueis, seeing the boy was planning something for his new enemies. The Akatsuki will hunt me down more than ever. They will also go after Suna's Sabaka no Garatu for his demon. We will leak information about the organization through our merchants in Suna and in Kumo to the Kages of each village. Give them all a heads up. I will then go after the seven-tailed Jinchuriki in Taki and recruit her to my side like I did the others, thought Darth Sage while his master nodded in approval. What about the Mizuki Jin Mist? Said Kyubi, having looked at the bingo book with his vessel at the section under Kages. He's lost to us. That much I have foreseen. As is the six-tailed Jinchuriki. He was taken after the rebels began fighting it out with the Mizuki's forces. Abducted by Madara himself while making it seem like he fled mist so other shinobi villages would look for him and keep them away from water country, thought Darth Sage while Kyubi was now growling in anger. I'm looking forward to you killing him, said Kyubi, as the very name of the Uchiha infuriated the fox, and wanted the bastard to suffer. Me too, Kyubi. Me too, thought Darth Sage while heading for his meditation chamber and focus himself on figuring out how to make his next move properly. Chapter 10, Twisting the Blade. Uchiha Sasuke frowned in his bed in the middle of the night, having yet to change into his sleepwear, and get out of his shinobi gear from doing training with his substitute sensei today. Personally, the Uchiha thought it was pointless, as only Kakashi was the only sensei he needed since the man had the only a fully developed Sharingan in Konoha, and the man wasn't in the village. Hunting down a now labeled S-class criminal by the name of Uzumaki Naruto, the butcher of Lucky Sanctuary Orphanage, and kidnapper of shinobi from multiple villages. How someone Sasuke's age was able to even do that, the boy didn't know, but it was upsetting, and the last loyal Uchiha of Konoha wanted that kind of power. How? How could that no-plan loser be so strong? Thought Sasuke, as he stared at the ceiling of his home, and grit his teeth in anger. Sasuke wanted that power. He needed it. All things in this world were meant to cater to his every whim and desire. This nobody of an orphan was getting stronger through leaps and bounds. Yet here he was, an elite among the Konoha shinobi, being stuck with the rank of Genin, and unable to advance to Chunin due to the renegade blonde killing his third teammate. Itachi was already far ahead of him by this point in his life, and it had infuriated Sasuke knowing that his own power was nowhere near that level. Look at you, Sasuke. The last so-called great Uchiha of Konoha. Brooding, wallowing in his own anger, and thinking of how to make my power his own. How pathetic, said the voice of Darth Sage before the figure appeared from the shadows to see Sasuke leap off his bed in a fighting stance. You. Give me one good reason why I should kill you right now for entering my home uninvited? Said Sasuke while the Sith chuckled in amusement. 1. I can give you several. First, I'm a shadow clone, not the original, and will dispel myself with ease. 2. You are nowhere near the level of the real me, and this shadow clone standing before you have more than enough skill to beat your body into the ER at the hospital. 3. I have something that needs to be said, and only to you regarding your clan along with how Konoha treats its last loyal member, said Darth Sage while he just laughed at the Uchiha's angry expression. Then speak it. I command you to talk, said Sasuke before being thrown by an invisible power into a nearby wall while clutching his now constricting throat.
You do not command me, Uchiha.
I can easily crush you and let the village weep at the loss of losing such a pathetic child from an equally pathetic clan.
Now either you behave or I'll break your neck before I leave you to die, alone,
said Darth Sage while seeing the Uchiha nod slightly to indicate he would behave before the Sith released him.
What is it you want to tell me?
said Sasuke hoarsely while rubbing his throat and gave a small glare at the blonde shadow clone.
That the higher-ups are manipulating you.
That they only want to see you succeed so they can get a return on their investment when you rise to the position of power they control.
Haven't you found it easy to do everything at the academy?
Hit every target, ace every test, and beat every instructor during a spar?
You don't really think it's because you are an Uchiha, do you?
said Darth Sage while Sasuke grits his teeth.
Of course, it is. I'm an elite. I'm better than everyone in this village. Just like Itachi,
said Sasuke while the Sith scoffed at him.
Don't be so arrogant.
It's pathetic to see such a thing coming off of you in waves.
We both know the truth behind your past success at the Leaf Academy.
They spoiled you to the point where even thinking outside the box is not possible and implanted the belief that everything should just be handed to you, said Darth Sage while Sasuke looked ready to attack, but the glare from the Sith made him stay where he was, and simply continue to scowl.
Even if what you said is true, I can still gain power from them, and kill Itachi later on, said Sasuke with conviction in his voice while Darth Sage just let out a chuckle.
Are you sure?
Do you really think they will let the last of Uchiha clan in Konoha run off to kill his much older, wiser, and stronger brother?
We both know Itachi can kill you easily.
They know it too. Do you really think they won't pull something to ensure your bloodline continues before approving of such a mission?
I think not, said Darth Sage with a smile on his face that was sly and all-knowing in a way the Uchiha didn't like one bit.
They wouldn't dare,
said Sasuke with the blonde-haired shadow clone of a Sith just smirking at him.
Oh, they would.
They would ensure multiple women carried your offspring so that way the chances of your bastard children successfully awakening the Sharingan eyes are far greater than just impregnating one woman. They'll send you off on your mission, playing it out dramatically, as their great hero of the Uchiha clan heads off to slay its villain, who is ironically your very own brother, and your poor children will be spoon-fed your tragic death about trying to avenge their forever lost family, said Darth Sage while Sasuke just sneered at him.
You foreseeing the future, or something? Said Sasuke while looking at him in disbelief. Or something. What do you care?
You're the great Uchiha Sasuke. The shinobi elite, as you keep telling everyone, so this shouldn't bother you in the slightest, and just make this more fun for someone of your status, said Darth Sage mockingly at him.
Get out of my home,
said Sasuke angrily while the shadow clone mockingly bowed at him.
As you wish, Uchiha-san.
However, ask yourself this one little question after I leave, and reflect on the answer.
If your clan wasn't killed, if Itachi hadn't done what he did, would the people of Konoha still be kissing your ass, and giving you whatever your selfish heart desired?
Think about it, said Darth Sage before the shadow clone went poof, and left the Uchiha alone to his own devices.
He's wrong.
They would give me what I want because I'm an Uchiha.
A bloodline that is unmatched by these pathetic peons.
The councils can continue to spoil me all they want, I have no reason to give anything back to them, and never will because the Uchiha do not give back anything.
Why would we? Thought Sasuke, knowing that the Sith didn't know what he was talking about. In Whirlpool? Arrogant fool.
Why Itachi spared him I'll never know, said Darth Sage while receiving the shadow clone's memories of his conversation between.
It doesn't matter, my apprentice.
Let the Uchiha continue to suckle on the breast of the village like the child he is and fail to see the truth that's right in front of him, said Darth Plagueis while his student nodded.
Master, may I have a word with you please?
Said Haku, as she approached him on his throne, and kneeled before the Sith.
You may.
Speak, said Darth Sage while seeing the girl look up at him now.
I have just received word the envoy sent to Dodo in Snow Country has returned and it sounds promising, said Haku, seeing the Sith smile at this information.
That is good news. But, said Darth Sage, sensing there was more. Jiraiya of the Sannin spies are sniffing around the company.
If they learn the envoy has returned with important news you would go to learn about personally then, said Haku, not even wanting to finish that statement while seeing the Sith nod in understanding.
Then Jiraiya himself along with a massive strike team of Leaf ANBU would hunt me down regardless if they had the Hokage's approval or not. Still, this could work to our advantage, said Darth Sage, thinking things over in his head.
Master? Said Haku, seeing him thinking about how to handle this matter.
Yes. Yes. This could work out for me rather nicely indeed, said Darth Sage, letting out a sinister chuckle. But what about Taki? The eventual visit to Snow Country to see Dodo?
Said Haku, as she could see in his eyes that the Sith was going to delay those plans for this, and it didn't make sense.
They can wait a little long, my dear.
Besides, there is always a risk in what we do, and a Sith must do what he must for reaching one's goal, said Darth Sage, knowing this was going to become hectic for him.
They will hurt you? They will unleash unspeakable pain upon your person,
said Haku, as she saw him nod, and didn't understand why he would do this.
I know, Haku.
Of course, I trust you along with the others will plan for my rescue, and save me from the leaf when the time is right? Darth Sage with a smile and saw her nod with loyalty to him practically overflowing from the ice user's eyes.
We will never abandon you, Sage-sama,
said Haku, knowing that the instant he was in Leaf's prison she was going to bust him out with all the fury her body could produce. While I am indisposed of in Konoha, you are in charge of the others, and I expect my planned rescue to produce a great deal of casualties for the Leaf, said Darth Sage while seeing the girl nod, knowing whom among his subordinates would be chosen for that part of the rescue plan.
Be careful, Sage-sama, said Haku while the Sith walked towards her kneeled form and patted the girl's head.
See you soon, said Darth Sage before walking away from a saddened Haku.
Gato can pani sometime later. Dodo-sama was indeed eager to sell the chakra armor to us.
His current problems with the rebels in Snow Country opposing his rule have cost him quite a bit of money, as he has been working on a special excavation project and looking for something buried in the snow, said the envoy while addressing the Sith and chairman of Gato Kanpani privately. The news of Dodo wanting to do business had surprised the envoy, which he stated in his report, and in his tone of voice when speaking to the young chairman. If anything, the envoy was expecting to return in pieces and basically telling the Sith that the tyrant in Snow Country said no. However, it seemed Lady Luck was on the man's side, and was able to return in one piece with good news to his employer. Tell him money is of no object to me. Set a price for the chakra armor. If he wants us to pay more, then haggle for a bit, and then agree to whatever price Dodo makes. After we have the chakra armor, it is to go to our own technicians to ensure they are indeed the real deal, and after we confirm the chakra armor is in fact authentic, Haku will provide test subjects to make sure the equipment works, said Darth Sage before dismissing the man and ordered the envoy's carriage to take him on a private company ship heading for Snow Country.
Jiraiya's here, said Kyuubi while the Sith mentally nodded. Welcome, Jiraiya.
Come to take me by yourself, I see, said Darth Sage while the Sannin appeared from one of the shadowy corners of the room.
There is a team of 20 ANBU stationed all over the building.
If you don't come quietly, we will fight you, and do a lot of damage to your company, said Jiraiya, seeing the Sith smirk at him.
And no doubt kills my loyal employees. Just like the Leaf did to the people of Whirlpool so many years ago, right, Jiraiya?
Said Darth Sage while letting out a chuckle at seeing Jiraiya scowl angrily at him. That won't happen if you surrender quietly without a problem, said Jiraiya while he saw his godson think this over.
Very well.
Let's go, said Darth Sage while smiling an all-knowing smile at Jiraiya, and it was making the Sannin uneasy.
What are you up to, Naruto?
You don't just surrender without a fight, and I know you're not a shadow clone, thought Jiraiya, as he looked for the boy's sword, but didn't find it on him, and put chakra suppression cuffs on Naruto before alerting the ANBU of the mission being successful.
Haku, thought Darth Sage while using the force to connect with his servant.
Yes, Sage-sama, said Haku, ready to follow his command.
It's time, my dear. Inform our contact in the Fire Daimyo's court of me being taken to the Leaf Village by Jiraiya of the Sannin against my will under the threat of losing the lives of my employees, thought Darth Sage, knowing she would carry it out immediately. You are fortunate the new Hokage favors you so much and wanting you brought back to Konoha unharmed, said Jiraiya at last before they were all in a secluded area with the 20 ANBU now waiting for further orders. I'll make sure to thank him at my trial. That is, if I am allowed to have a trial, and even participate in my own defense? Said Darth Sage while sensing the ANBU were unhappy with him and clearly wanted to slice him to pieces. You can try, but I seriously doubt the higher-ups will let you get away with the brutal killing of innocent people and abducting shinobi from different villages, said Jiraiya while his godson just kept smirking. You'd be surprised what I can do, said Darth Sage while sensing the ANBU around and getting angrier with each passing second. I say we all have a go at the demon now. Why wait for a trial? We all know the QB brat is going to die in the end, said the ANBU captain wearing a hawk mask. That's true, Hawk, but we don't want to make him a martyr for the others to follow, and be a rallying cry against us when they eventually learn of his capture, said Jiraiya seeing them all reluctantly agree. You're too late, Jiraiya. Far too late, thought Darth Sage knowing the man was wondering where his sword lunar eclipse was and no doubt take it for study for possible duplication to empower the leaf further. Fools. They were all arrogant fools. Fire Daimyo's castle sometime later. The Fire Daimyo was in a session of court today, meeting with family, both of blood, and in-laws that proved worthy of marrying to the family. Then there were his friends of his other family members, their children, and then the other higher society types that attend for the sake of getting the feudal lord's attention. Some of the guests in his court were other feudal lords from other countries, wishing to speak to him about trade and politically arranged marriages. They would get the occasional conversation with him, kissing his feet in return for influential favor, which the man didn't really like, and didn't want to be a walking favor machine being asked for the slightest bit of help in exchange for such false flattering. Fire Daimyo-sama, said the business representative assigned by the chairman of Gado Kenpani to be the company's voice at the feudal lord's court, approached the regal man before being repelled by two of the samurai guarding their lord. Yes, Toshi Takeda-san? Said the Fire Daimyo seeing the representative bow before him with a grave urgency in his eyes that wasn't there before. My lord, I must speak to you of a great travesty and in grave injustice that has befallen the chairman of Gado Kenpani at the hands of Konoha shinobi just a few hours ago at the company itself, said Toshi Takeda, as he saw the Fire Daimyo raise an eyebrow and motioned his guards to let him pass before the representative bowed before the feudal lord. What travesty? What injustice? Said the feudal lord, as he wondered what the leaf had done now, and after just giving them all a warning with their newly appointed Godame Hokage. Our chairman was just taken against his will by Jiraiya of the Sannin back to Konoha and was told to cooperate or risk the lives of the employees working at Gado Kenpani. We don't know why, but before his arrest, the chairman asked for you to intervene in some way, and possibly witness the impending trial against him, said Toshi, as he saw the Fire Daimyo frown, and considering the request. Considering the actions of the Leaf Village recently, I'm inclined to agree that I should be present to ensure Konoha plays by my rules, and not make an even greater mess of things. Who is the chairman of Gado Kenpani? Said the Fire Daimyo curiously. Officially, the current chairman's name was to be kept anonymous to protect his identity after the incident in Wave Country with his predecessor, but considering the situation at hand, I feel it is now prudent to inform you that the chairman of Gado Kenpani is Darth Sage, and at one point went by another name, Uzumaki Naruto, said Toshi before the feudal lord surprisingly looked angry and hoped the chairman's faith in the Fire Daimyo intervening being misplaced. What? They dared do this to me again? Are you certain it was Jiraiya of the Sannin that took him away? Said the Fire Daimyo seeing Toshi nod. His loyal assistant by the name of Haku witnessed it with her own eyes. Several other employees will testify if necessary, of seeing masked shinobi with leaf headbands poking around the company. She informed me of this immediately and has requested your help to prevent any further harm to our chairman, said Toshi with the feudal lord in front of him getting angrier by the minute. Oh, I will intervene on this matter, Toshi-san. Make no mistake about that. Guards! said the fire daimyo, seeing the two samurai stand at attention. Yes, daimyo-sama, said the two guards at the same time. Prepare my carriage and a fully armed escort. No. A full armed battalion of only my very best samurai will accompany me to Konoha, said the fire daimyo loud enough for everyone to hear, while other representatives from other countries like Wind were already moving to inform their leaders of this event. Konoha Hokage Tower. You did what? Said Asuma, looking at Jiraiya with furious anger while his father was smirking at the victory the Leaf had won over the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. We caught Naruto and had him transferred to INT for the information on his primary base to acquire the others, said Jiraiya, knowing the boy would crack under Ibiki's not-so-gentle care. And how many people know you've done this? Said Asuma, seeing Jiraiya shrug. Aside from the ANBU that I recruited for this mission? You, me, Sensei, Inoichi, and Ibiki, said Jiraiya while the Godame Hokage looked ready to explode in anger. How long has it been since Naruto's return and being sent to Ibiki? Said Asuma with the Sannin once again shrugging. Not long. I'd say an hour. At the very least, said Jiraiya while Asuma's anger became even greater. You're playing a dangerous game, Jiraiya. He could unleash Kyuubi at any moment, said Asuma with his father smirking. Jiraiya sealed away Kyuubi before taking Naruto to Ibiki, said the former Sandaime Hokage while Jiraiya frowned. Actually, I didn't, said Jiraiya while his sensei was completely shocked along with Asuma. You didn't? Said Asuma and Hiruzen at the same time. Well, it's not like I didn't try, but every time I did, my body was instantly repelled back by some kind of invisible energy coming off of Naruto, and it sent me into a wall before sending me through it on my third try. The ANBU around me tried to knock him out so I could do the sealing that way, but they were repelled too, and Naruto just smiled like it was some kind of joke until we gave up, said Jiraiya, seeing the two were surprised by this. Could it be the Kyuubi? Said Hiruzen while Jiraiya shook his head no. I didn't feel the fox's chakra being used by Naruto at all. It was something else entirely, said Jiraiya while unsure what it was that repelled him in the first place. It made the Sannin uncomfortable. INT department with Naruto. Darth Sage smiled at Ibiki standing in front of him while the Sith himself was sitting in a chair, arms tied, and cuffed with chakra suppression seals behind his back. The scarred-faced man dressed in black looking at him with a deathly serious expression on his face, as he attempted to crack the boy's head open figuratively, and get the information about the lost shinobi pilfered during the Chunin exams. The head of the Interrogation and Torture Division of Konoha found himself facing quite the challenging foe, since he was not expecting a child to be so immune to his tactics. Full-grown adults sitting in the kid's position would be pissing themselves right about now, spilling their deepest, darkest secrets to him, and become crying babies wanting their mommies. But this kid just smiled. No fear. No sense of fright. Just a smile. Inoichi wasn't much help either, as the clan head tried to dive into the boy's head, clearly knowing the risks of entering the mind of a Jinchuriki, and what the demon in their heads could do. However, the man was repelled upon making contact, and sent flying back into his own head with a killer headache. Inoichi tried again 2 more times, but the boy just repeated the process, and after the 3rd time had nearly made the Yamanaka clan head get knocked unconscious before taking him to get medical treatment. You're good kid. I'll give you that much, said Ibiki while wishing Anko was here, since his number 2 in this division would be testing his pain levels physically. But she wasn't, since Naruto had chosen to kidnap her too. My master trained me well, said Darth Sage at last, knowing Ibiki would be curious about his master. Clearly. Shame he's not here. I'd love to meet him to compare notes, said Ibiki while the Sith just chuckled. He's already here. In this room actually, said Darth Sage, making Ibiki raise an eyebrow at him. You mean the Kyuubi? Said Ibiki while the chuckle from the boy increased. Now that would be telling Ibiki-san, and I really am enjoying myself, said Darth Sage mockingly, and seeing Ibiki's hands become fists. You can't keep this up forever. You know that, right kid? How long can you stay awake before nodding off? How long can you go without eating? Sooner or later, your body will weaken, and then things won't be so nice, said Ibiki with Naruto just once more laughing at him. You're assuming I'm going to be staying that long, said Darth Sage while Ibiki frowned at him with confusion. Oh really? And just how exactly did you come to that little conclusion? Said Ibiki with a hint of amusement in his voice. Because the Hokage's ANBU is going to come through that door any moment now and ask for me to be brought to him for my trial, said Darth Sage while Ibiki smirked at the boy. You have quite the imagination, kid, said Ibiki before a knock came to the door and the head of INT opened it to see an ANBU of captain rank with a Nico mask behind it. I'm here for the prisoner. Hokage's orders, said Nico seeing Ibiki looking slightly baffled yet angry. He hasn't told me anything yet. Come back later, said Ibiki while trying to shut the door, but Nico kept it firmly open, and he could sense the ANBU glaring at him. This is not a request, Ibiki. It's an order. I'm to escort Uzumaki Naruto to the Hokage, the councils, and the clan heads for his trial. No excuses, said Nico while Ibiki reluctantly nodded his head and brought the boy to his feet. Move your ass, boy. And pray to Kami you don't come back here to see me after the trial, said Ibiki shoving Naruto towards the ANBU captain. I don't have to pray to Kami for that, Ibiki. I know I won't be coming back to see you, said Darth Sage while walking with Nico towards the meeting area where his so-called trial was to take place. Hokage Tower Trial Room. He's here, said Asuma sensing the pulse of chakra from the ANBU captain Nico to signify she had arrived with Naruto. Why are we even having this trial? We all know he's guilty, said Hamura angrily while glaring at the door. Enough. We are having this trial and that's final. Bring in the defendant, said Asuma to the Chunin by the door and waited for Nico to enter and bring in the boy. Here's the boy per your orders, Hokage-sama, said Nico bowing to the fifth Hokage and moved to the wall to watch the proceedings herself. Did Ibiki get anything out of him? Said Koharu while glaring at the boy. No, said Nico simply while many on the council sputtered about the boy proving he was indeed the very demon they hated. Enough. This is a trial and you will all act professionally here in my presence. Got it, said Asuma seeing them grumble, but nonetheless nod their heads, and saw the boy in front of them just smirk. They are so pathetic. Don't you agree, my master? Thought Darth Sage while the spirit of the new Sith Lord nodded in agreement. Their arrogance is indeed sickening, said Darth Plagueis while watching things from his student's eyes. Uzumaki Naruto, you are charged with murdering the matron, her assistants, and even the children of the local orphanage along with the murder of a Leaf Shinobi by the name of Sai. You are also charged with kidnapping of Leaf, Iwa, Kumo, and Grass Shinobi for your own use against their home villages. How do you plead? Said the Godame Hokage while watching his father out of the corner of his eye looking at Naruto like he was the worst thing in existence. Not guilty to all charges, said Darth Sage seeing several members of the councils ready to explode in protest and call him names. Only a glare from Asuma told them to shut their mouths. I see. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Said Asuma seeing the boy shrug. What can I say? My so-called jury to the left and right of you have already declared me guilty simply for being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. My life has been made miserable by the people in power around you and now I'm expected to get a fair trial from those very same individuals in this room? Said Darth Sage smoothly while Asuma himself had to admit the basis for not receiving a fair unbiased ruling was accurate. Still, I'd like to hear your version of things regarding the charges, and if there is anything to dispute the accusations against you, said Asuma seeing the boy was completely calm. For one, I don't see how you can pin the death of so many people in Konoha on me. Is there any proof I killed them? Said Darth Sage while seeing the council seeing Reed and knew they couldn't hold out being denied speaking against him. We know you killed them, demon. Your scent was in that building around the time of the killings, said a fat merchant from the civilian council. So? I lived in that place for several years. Naturally, my scent is going to linger there no matter what happens, and if all you have is my scent, Then I ask the charges be dropped due to lack of any other evidence, said Darth Sage with the councils pounding their fists in protest.
Out of the question.
You murdered those poor innocent civilians,
said the pink-haired woman on the civilian council.
And there is also Sai from Genin Team 7 being killed in Wave Country, said Danzo, as he saw the boy shrug, and looked at them with uncaring eyes.
Is there any proof that I did? A weapon in my possession that was used to kill this boy named Sai?
Said Darth Sage while inwardly enjoying seeing the people around him get angrier with every passing second. You killed Sai with your demonic sword. A black sword rumored to be sharp enough to slice through a tree with just one swing, said Hamura with Naruto raising an eyebrow at them.
A sword? What sword? Jiraiya-san knows I didn't have one in my possession upon my arrest. Doesn't it stand to reason that such a weapon you claim is such high quality be on my person at all times?
Said Darth Sage while Danzo fumed at him while Jiraiya shook his head to indicate he didn't find a weapon on the Sith. You must have stashed it somewhere.
Where is it? Said Koharu seeing the boy just shrug.
I have no idea because I do not possess such a weapon, said Darth Sage while seeing them unable to do much else on the subject. What about the charges regarding the kidnapping of shinobi from different villages during the Chunin exams the Leaf hosted this year?
Said Asuma smirking at them. That's easy. I didn't kidnap them.
They joined me of their own free will, said Darth Sage with a smile on his face.
You lie. My daughter would never join you. Said Hayashi, his eyes active and glaring in an intimidating manner.
And yet she's no longer in the village, said Darth Sage casually while Hayashi looked livid.
Because you are holding my daughter against her will,
said Hayashi with his voice rising in anger.
Hayashi, please.
Naruto, we know you took several genin from Konoha, and several other shinobi from different villages.
Where are they? Said Asuma trying to be the reasonable individual here. Safe.
Safer, healthier, and stronger than they ever were in this village, said Darth Sage while the majority of the people in this room looked ready to shoot fire jutsus from their mouths at him.
Give me back my daughter,
said Hayashi rising from his chair and ready to cripple the boy with gentle fist strike should the Sith give the answer they wanted.
Oh, now she is your daughter? Now, she is of importance to you?
From what Hinata has told me about her home life, you never cared about her well-being, and focused more on the second daughter of your family. What was it you called her?
Oh yes.
I do believe the quote I'm looking for would be you worthless child.
Hanabi shows more potential now than you ever did. Get out of my sight now.
If you don't improve, I'll put the cage bird seal on your forehead myself and have Hanabi use it on you every single day until you show that you're not a failure of the clan. Said Darth Sage while seeing Hayashi's face go through a mixture of emotions at the moment.
You bastard,
said Hayashi while the Sith just smiled at him.
How is that my fault?
Those are your words, aren't they?
Hinata told me and I in turn am simply repeating them for everyone else to hear.
Though something tells me you won't be getting the Father of the Year award anytime soon, said Darth Sage while Hayashi tried to charge forward to strike the blonde boy down, but Nico had stopped him, and the Sith just watched with amusement.
What about the others, Naruto?
Rock Lee, Tenten, the Grass Shinobi, then 3 shinobi from Kumo, and just recently you acquired Iwa's 2 Jinchuriki, said Asuma after Nico was able to get Hayashi back in his seat.
I fought Rock Lee one-on-one with the winner deciding the loser's future. He lost. I won.
As for Tenten, she was ambitious given her desire to be one of the strongest kunoichi of all time like Senju Tsunade, and I provided her with the means to do it, said Darth Sage before the door to the room was thrown open and the fire daimyo came in with a face that a blind man could see was filled with anger.
How dare you? What were my instructions regarding the boy? I specifically stated he was to be left alone. What part of my orders did all of you not understand?
Said the fire daimyo seeing them cowering like scolded children.
The daimyo of Fire Country, I presume?
Said Darth Sage seeing the feudal lord turn to face him with a sympathetic smile on his face.
You presume correctly, Naruto. My sincerest apologies for this action against you. How have they been treating you since arriving here? Said the fire daimyo while seeing the boy's hands still behind his back while sitting in the chair. I can't really complain since I've been treated better than usual. Of course, I've also been treated worse, and find myself in the middle right now, said Darth Sage while the clearly angry feudal lord turned his full attention to the people in the room trying to persecute him. This farce of a trial is now over. Do you understand me? I will not tolerate any of you defying my orders again. If you go against me one more time, then the Leaf Village will be liquidated, and none of you will be alive to see what comes from the ashes, said the fire daimyo seeing them nodding obediently. Am I free to go? Said Darth Sage while looking at the fire daimyo. Yes, said the fire daimyo before motioning for Nico to undo the restraints placed on the boy. Daimyo-sama, this boy is a Jinchuriki. He must remain in Konoha for the good of the village, said Danzo while trying to get the man to stare in his direction so the hidden Sharinganite could manipulate the highest authority in the land. Only to feel an incredible amount of pain from the optical nerves of the implanted organ and had to fight back the sudden level of pain. Fool! You think I'm going to let you manipulate him? Only I can do that. Thought Darth Sage, as he read Danzo's mind to figure out his plan, and quickly used the force to attack the inferior oblique muscles followed by the inferior rectus muscles to cause a spasm to disrupt his control. Considering how the leaf has treated him from the start, it would be in the best interest of Konoha if he didn't stay in the village, and cause bodily harm to its people, said the fire daimyo seeing them all nod despite the reluctance showing in their eyes for letting the matter being dropped against their will. This isn't over. Once my root forces are in position, they will take the Kyuubi brat and remove the demon to a more submissive host, thought Danzo, as he cursed this sudden pain in his implanted, and made a mental note to call upon one of his personal doctor to take a look at the eye. Thank you so much for your help, Daimyo-sama. I had this feeling the leaf was going to cause unspeakable evil upon my person had you not shown up, said Darth Sage, as he walked with the fire daimyo to the man's carriage, and saw the feudal lord smile back at him. I trusted the Sandaime Hokage along with those in power to do what was right regarding your situation, Uzumaki Naruto. I truly do apologize, said the fire daimyo seeing the Sith bow his head slightly at him. I understand, Daimyo-sama. I have no intention of holding this against you, said Darth Sage while sensing the daimyo in front of him was indeed sincere and didn't think like the former Sandaime Hokage did. I'm glad to hear it. Any matter you wish to bring to my attention, whether business with Gato Kanpani or something more personal, I am willing to lend my ear, said the fire daimyo before shaking the Sith's hand and got into his carriage before Battalion followed him back to Fire Country's capital. You think you're so smart, don't you, Naruto? Said Jiraiya appearing behind the blonde boy. I don't know, Jiraiya-san. How smart do you think I am? Said Darth Sage before turning to face the Sannin and saw the man was less than pleased. I think you're smart enough to fool a very naive fire daimyo, but not me, and certainly not the others in that room. We both know you killed those people at the orphanage, killed Saiyan Wave, and are guilty of kidnapping shinobi from all over, said Jiraiya while the Sith in front of him just smirked. I told you how those 3-leaf shinobi came into my possession, Jiraiya. As for all the other shinobi I acquired, well, they did sign waivers before entering the Forest of Death, and since they aren't from the Leaf you have no official standing to arrest me for those, said Darth Sage while walking away from the Sannin before being stopped by a large group of Rude NBU with the former Sandaime leading them. You're not leaving, said Hiruzen while glaring at the boy. Didn't we just have this conversation with the fire daimyo? Said Darth Sage mockingly at the former Hokage. We have many ways of making people and things like you go missing without the fire daimyo knowing, said Hiruzen seeing the boy just chuckle at him. This is your one warning, old man. Do not do this. It is unwise to provoke what you do not understand, said Darth Sage, as he sounded deadly serious, and felt the dark side of the force flowing through him. I understand plenty, Naruto. I understand you are going to pay very heavily for what you have done and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Take him, said Hiruzen pointing at Naruto, and the boy scowled at them. Old fool. You've already lost and don't even know it. said Darth Sage before thrusting his hand back and using the force to push Jiraiya into a nearby building. The army of Rude Anbu charged him, but were instantly struck by thousands of Senbon needles, bone spikes, and a barrage of many pointy projectile weapons that pierced their flesh that resulted in immediate kills. Turning to his right, Sarutobi Hiruzen saw the form of three face-covered figures standing in the trees glaring daggers at him, and the blonde Jinchuriki just watched with amusing interest. "Care to try again, you old bastard?" said Kimimaro, glaring daggers through his mask at the former Hokage. "We won't allow you to harm our master," said Haku, her sais already out. "Still think you understand me?" said Darth Sage while Jiraiya got himself out of the building and saw the third member of the boys' backup with surprise. "You're Tenten from Madogeist Genin Team 9. said Jiraiya, seeing the girl nod, and wished he could read her face behind the mask she now wore. "Former Genin student of Madogai," said Tenten, as she saw the disbelief on the former Hokage's face, and Jiraiya too, since they never expected her to abandon Konoha. "What did you do to her?" said Hiruzen while glaring at the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. "Who? Me? Nothing. I just showed Tenten the simple truth behind Konoha's so-called greatness and how it was built upon lie after lie after lie, along with all the bodies of my family on my mother's side," said Darth Sage while the Toad Sannin and former Hokage scowled at him. "I don't know how you found out about that, but I'm going to have Jiraiya remove it from your mind, and we're going to start from scratch in making you a proper Jinchuriki," said Hiruzen, taking a step forward, but a sharp pain at his waist stopped him, and the former Hokage of Konoha looked down to see a dark shadowy blade sticking out. "Difficult to do when you're now paralyzed from the waist down," said Darth Sage, as he saw Tenten throw lunar eclipse from her spot, and knew the girl had completely turned to his side given the fact the forged weapon of the dark side had allowed her to do that. "Sensei," said Jiraiya, trying to get to his fallen teacher, but was blasted away by Sith lightning before he could, and sent flying back. "This isn't over, Naruto. Sooner or later, you will pay for your crimes against Konoha," said Hiruzen while the boy walked behind him and yanked the sword out harshly. "Just as you will pay for your crimes against me and my family, old man. When the time comes, all your secrets and lies will be made known to the world. I can only imagine the fallout from such things coming to light. How will you explain it? Or will you just kill yourself like a coward so such an explanation is never made possible?" said Darth Sage into the man's ear, and then laughed at the former Hokage in a mocking way. "Uzumaki bastard child," said Hiruzen while the boy behind him just smirked. "Desperate and hollow words from a cowardly old man," said Darth Sage before walking away from the down man while Jiraiya moved to protect his sensei from further harm. "This isn't over, Naruto," said Jiraiya, seeing the boy just keep walking. "By the Fire Daimyo's own decree, it is over, Jiraiya. Just walk away from this if you truly value your life," said Darth Sage while the Sannin just continued to glare at the boy. "We'll see about that," thought Jiraiya before taking his sensei to the hospital to have the man treated. "Your timing perfect, Haku." "As it was yours, Kimimaro," said Darth Sage while seeing the two nod and sensed they were pleased with his praise. "And me, Sage-sama?" said Tenten while the boy stopped and looked at her for a second. "Ah yes. Tenten. You also did well. Your aim with those weapons was impeccable. I am pleased to know your true loyalties lie are not with the leaf," said Darth Sage before he continued walking with the three following behind him. "I am honored to be in your service, Sage-sama," said Tenten while sensing Haku's eyes were still watching her carefully for any signs of betrayal. "Chidori," was what came next, as a black blur came at them with a ball of lightning that sounded like 1,000 chirping birds, and was aimed at the Sith. Only to hit Tenten in his place, as she acted like a shield, and took the blunt of the attack for her master. At this moment, two things to happen. First was seeing the weapons girl's loyalty belonged to Darth Sage without question, and didn't need to consider any attempts of betrayal on her part. The second was the identity of the would-be assassin, which was none other than Uchiha Sasuke himself, and his Sharingan eyes blazing with fury. "I've killed your weak pawn," said Sasuke with a smirk on his face before throwing the girl onto the ground. "Funny," She doesn't look dead, said Darth Sage while seeing the girl trying to survive against the assassination jutsu.
Scowling, Sasuke took out a kunai to finish the job, but found himself unable to move, and realized the blonde was somehow responsible for it. Trying to glare at the Sith with all his hatred, Sasuke tried to fight this strange power, and failing in the process before being thrown harshly into a nearby tree. "S-A-G-E-S-A, ma," said Tenten, as she looked up at her master, and saw him stare down before putting a hand on the hole in her chest. "You've proven yourself yet again, Tenten," said Darth Sage while doing what he did for Haku when this happened to her in Wave Country.
"Thank you, my master," said Tenten, as she slipped into unconsciousness, and was picked up by the blonde Sith before they continued their long walk away from Konoha. "Why did you not kill the foolish Uchiha back there, Sage-sama?"
said Kimimaro, as he would have done it himself, but the albino Kaguya got the impression to stay his hand, and just followed the Sith back to Whirlpool.
"It's too early in the game to kill the Uchiha right now, Kimimaro.
I want him to know to see the painful truth before meeting his end," said Darth Sage, simply knowing he would kill the Uchiha when the time was right.
And not a day, hour, minute, or second sooner. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.